Hello, my name is Tova Spector, and I am the Regional Botanist and Pollinator Coordinator for the Intermountain region of the U.S. Forest Service. I'm here to share some of the updates about the work we're doing on the forests in Utah. First, I want to give a broad overview. The focus for the Forest Service right now is on a few different initiatives. The first initiative we're working on is the Wildfire Crisis Strategy. We recognize the increased risk to communities and healthy forests from the increasingly severe fires. So to address this risk, we have identified several landscapes where we're taking action to reduce these threats. So this includes returning natural processes on our forests to recreate a fire-adapted landscape. The second initiative we're undertaking is our mature and old-growth forest inventory. So last year, BLM and Forest Service worked to identify old and mature forests on the lands they manage. Now the U.S. Forest Service is working to amend all of our 128 forest land management plans to conserve and steward old-growth forest conditions on national forests and grasslands across the nation. The third initiative that we're working on are forest plan revisions. The Forest Service is moving more quickly to revise forest plans under the 2012 planning rule. Under this rule, forests will no longer have sensitive species lists, but instead have components in their forest plans that approach species conservation from an ecological perspective. We're doing this by incorporating ecological conditions needed by the species to maintain viable populations of the species of conservation concern within the forest plan area. Forest plans will include components that maintain and restore ecological conditions that are needed by the species. The move from sensitive species to species of conservation concern will include species that are known to occur in the plan area and for which the regional forester has determined that the best available scientific information indicates substantial concern about the species' capacity to persist over the long term in the plan area. Since forest planning is going to take several years to complete, we've decided to update our sensitive species list until species of conservation concern is in place in forest plans. So the current list was issued in 2016, and we are working to finalize the updated list this year. Now I want to shift to highlighting some of our work on rare plants on Utah forests. Uinta Wasatch Cache National Forest funded an agreement with Michael Stevens from Utah Valley University to increase seed from clay phacelia and introduce that seed on Forest Service lands. Seed has been introduced in suitable sites on the forest from that project. Additional seed was collected in 2023. It was a good year for clay phacelia, and that seed is being increased in Michael Stevens' lab for additional introductions. We've also funded USGS to conduct additional genetics work on clay phacelia to help guide the introduction. That genetics work has not yet started. Britt and Sid on the Manti La Sal National Forest have worked with the Utah Natural Heritage Program to monitor Astragalus montii with the Heritage Program. So together with the Heritage Program, they visited all long-term trend sites that were established in the 1980s, repeated all linear transects, and added a new macro plot on White Mountain with more demographic data. And they are currently working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, who's working on the species status assessment for the species. This past year, they've also surveyed for Astragalus islii in the area burned in the Pack Creek fire that occurred in 2022. So from the survey at the Pack Creek area, burn area, they found seedlings and adults, and nearly all adults with good fruit production. So it looks like the species so far has been resilient to the effects of the fire from the Pack Creek fire. For Pachyra mucinensis, they revisited one monitoring site established where they found that cover was relatively stable. They also revisited several EOs of Penstemon tigestromii, some of those from the 1970s and 1980s, and plants were found at all of the EOs except for one. And I also just wanted to highlight, in case you missed it, that Barb Smith from the Manti La Sal and the Forest Service Rocky Mountain researchers published their 5 years of monitoring data on several rare species on the LaSalle Mountains on Manti-LaSalle National Forest. So, and I can put that link to that publication in the chat. At the regional and national level, we funded NatureServe to develop suitable habitat models for several species. We were able to submit all of our G2 ranked plant species for modeling. Some of these may not be suitable for a model, but we are exploring which of these species can be modeled and looking forward to these model outputs to help us narrow our survey efforts, to help us narrow in our rare plant surveys. We also continue to support and work with the Utah Natural Heritage Program on plant surveys and monitoring. And I also want to make sure to highlight that we welcome several new botanists into the region this year, including Sierra Sampson and Margarita Rivera and Sam Lundquist on the Uinta Wasatch Cache and Terry Gadd on the Fish Lake National Forest. We are also in the middle of hiring several new botanists in the region, so we are looking forward to more botanists joining us soon. And finally, in case you're not aware, the Bumblebee Atlas is expanding its project into Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, and Colorado. We've submitted a proposal to help fund this project in our region, and this project involves citizen scientists, so I encourage you to get involved if you are interested. Thank you, and I can put the web links in the chat.